Russian warplanes were damaged but not destroyed in a June 1 attack by Ukraine, and they will be restored, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said. Recall, Ukrainian drones struck airfields in Siberia and the far north, where Russia houses heavy bombers that form part of its strategic nuclear forces. Ryabkov, who oversees arms control diplomacy, told the state-run TASS news agency that the equipment in question, as was also stated by representatives of the Ministry of Defense, was not destroyed but damaged. It will be restored. A high-ranking Russian diplomat answered a question about the possible impact of the Ukrainian attack on airfields on the strategic balance. According to Ryabkov, all statements by the Kiev junta about the alleged destruction of up to a third of strategic missile carriers are unfounded, and nothing close to that happened. In addition, the planes were not destroyed, but damaged, and they will be repaired. The equipment in question, as was also stated by representatives of the Ministry of Defense, was not destroyed, but damaged. It will be restored. Draw your own conclusions from this. Plus, the nomenclature we are talking about now is not necessarily fully covered by certain agreements, he said. The remarks come after Ukraine's security service carried out what it called the most sophisticated long-range drone strike since the start of the full-scale war. The operation, codenamed Spider's Web, targeted 5 major Russian military airfields, Belaya, Dyagilevo, Ivanovo Severny, Olenya, and Ukrainka, with a fleet of 117 drones that had been hidden in wooden sheds transported by trucks. The drones, concealed for months and launched remotely, struck a range of strategic aircraft, including two 95, two 22M3, two 160 bombers, and an A-50 airborne early warning and control aircraft. The SBU claimed the operation took 18 months to plan and execute. According to Ukrainian reports, 41 long-range bombers were damaged in the attack, representing about 34% of Russia's strategic bomber fleet. Ukrainian officials also estimate that the strike inflicted roughly $7 billion in damage. Even Ryabkov's assertion that the damaged bombers can be returned needs to be taken with a huge pinch of salt. Russia's Tu-95, Tu-22M3, and Tu-16 strategic bombers are complicated, aging aircraft from the Soviet era, what the International Institute for Strategic Studies has categorized as a non-renewable strategic resource. The Tu-95 was introduced in the 1950s and the Tu-22s in the 1970s, neither are any longer in production and Russia is unlikely to have the industrial resources to manufacture the spares needed to repair damaged fuselages, engines, avionics, and weapon stations. The only option could be to cannibalize parts from other aircraft which, even if Russia has the necessary expertise, will result in further reductions in the size of the heavy bomber fleet. Not only Russian airfields were hit by the good drones, but also Chinese goods, which are currently not coming to Russia because the movement of trucks has been stopped. It turns out that Ukraine was able to strike both Russia and its main partner China at the same time. This was reported by the Moscow Times. Cargo imported into Russia at the border from China and Mongolia is being controlled. A manager of a large logistics company, who wished to remain anonymous, provided this information to the publication. It also became known that the traffic police of Siberia stopped trucks for inspection, which slows down the delivery of goods from other countries to Russia. Also, throughout the territory of Russia, trucks with license plates registered in the Chelyabinsk region are stopped for inspection. It is interesting that the traffic police inspect all trucks, even breaking customs seals. All this noticeably slows down the delivery times of Chinese goods to Russia, which has a negative impact on the state of the Russian economy. In addition, weapons and ammunition may be transported among the goods delivered to Russia from China, and the slowdown in their delivery is to Ukraine's advantage. Recall, The drones were stored in a warehouse in Chelyabinsk, where they could have been delivered from China via the border with Kazakhstan, and they were delivered to the airfields in trucks with Chelyabinsk license plates. Russia does not have a customs border with Kazakhstan, but cargo control was tightened at land border checkpoints with China and Mongolia literally the next day after the attack on the airfields, says a manager of a large logistics company. In addition, mass checks of trucks on the roads began at stationary and mobile traffic police posts in Siberia, and checks of trucks with Chelyabinsk license plates are being carried out throughout Russia. And even those sealed with customs seals are being opened, which means that documents have to be reissued, says an employee of a trucking company. A manager at another company says their vehicles are losing hours in lines for inspection in the Chelyabinsk region. One of our drivers stood at 3 checkpoints for a total of 10 hours, and no one cared that he had already been checked. 3 of our trucks have already been subject to such checks in the Chelyabinsk and Irkutsk regions, and this will delay delivery by at least a week, says his colleague from another company. The information about the checks and their impact on delivery times was confirmed in his Telegram channel by the founder of the logistics company Tradest, Andrei Zakharchenko. In his opinion, if drone attacks continue, it may be necessary to move cargo flow to the ports of Vladivostok or railway hubs in Novosibirsk, where there are more opportunities to control the contents of containers. As reported on June 3, the security service of Ukraine blew up the Kerch bridge. According to the SBU, the operation lasted several months. In particular, agents mined the supports of the illegally built overpass. According to the SBU, the underwater supports of the bridge supports are heavily damaged at the bottom level. In fact, it is now in a state of emergency. Yes, this is not the first defeat of the Kerch bridge, but it is still a long-awaited event. And it cannot but please. The fact that this structure must be removed from the Kremlin's logistics link is a fact. The question arises, what consequences will such a strike have for Russia? Ukrainian military expert, reserve colonel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine says, the main result of this operation is that the Russian military contingent will be blocked in Crimea. When such a need arises, they will be able to enter or exit Crimea only through the so-called northern gates. That is where we can easily reach them, because it is only 100 kilometers from the positions of the Ukrainian defense forces. We have enough weapons that are capable of striking at such a distance. To be more precise, these are almost all the operational level weapons we have. Thus, by destroying, or even seriously damaging the Kerch bridge, Ukraine can effectively ensure ourselves complete control over logistics to Crimea. He says that this is only the first stage of the summer campaign of the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Yes, we are not yet capable of conducting ground offensive operations. But we are capable of using long-range weapons. That is, what follows should be massive strikes by drones and missiles on military facilities of the Russian Federation on the Crimean Peninsula, he added. He said in Crimea, there are more than 150 stationary and about 100 mobile objects that have remained since the Soviet Union. If we start destroying all of this, the Russians will have virtually nowhere to go. There may be hope of getting out through Melitopol. But we will get them there too. As for the railway that Russia built with statements about an alternative to the Crimean Bridge, we must understand that we can also control this road in 3 places. 2 of them are in the immediate vicinity of the controlled territory. Actually, we are talking about Melitopol and near Kalmius. And the 3rd point is in the Rostov region. And although it is a little more difficult to get there, this does not mean impossible, he said.